Let's shift focus to Valtteri. Here's Turfy Brolin. Putting aside the fact Russell took him out at Imola, Bottas had a terrible weekend. Bad quali and a bad race, especially when you consider Hamilton showed that the Merc does not struggle in traffic. Surely Bottas has reached the end of the road with Mercedes.
I think that Valtteri, of the first two races this year, has looked, let's say, like a good racing driver. He hasn't looked exceptional, and we are always looking for those exceptional performances. If that continues, yes, he will not be in the Mercedes next year, I've got no doubt. If the Valtteri we've seen in the last seasons comes, which is occasionally out-qualifies Lewis, occasionally out-races him, but more often than not is right there with him in qualifying, even if it's at 1 or 2 attempts, then I think it will be difficult for the team to want to drop a solid, secure, number 1 minus or number 2 plus, however you would actually grade him. So it rests in the hands of the Daimler board. Toto, Ola, Kalenius, they will ultimately decide his future.
Well, that incident, you'd have to say, did pull focus from the fact Bottas was having a very bad day.
Doesn't love it in the pack, does he? He's very, very good on a Saturday, but he doesn't, if we think back to Monza last year, when Hamilton was roaring through from the back, having had his penalty, and Valtteri was stuck in the, behind McLarens, behind Renaults that day. He doesn't love it in the middle of the pack, but yeah, you can see why people are asking those questions, because he's in a car that shouldn't be in the middle of the pack.
He was lapped by Lewis and Max.
Rather savage. He's chasing it a little bit. To go back to that Sakir weekend that I thought was so telling at the back end of last year, he clearly felt the pressure then. And I think when it's not working, maybe he feels the pressure in the moment. But if he can't get on top of the racecraft of bailing himself out of that situation, Red Bull, they don't just have Max Verstappen anymore. They have Checo as well. And that is where they need him to step up. And if he doesn't step up, the game has slightly changed in that regard. If he doesn't step up, they need someone who can rescue a win if Lewis has a bad day.
Well, not to beat up on Valtteri too much, but I was just, tap into your encyclopedic knowledge of Formula One, that he's pulled off some big passes, though, when you say he's not good in the pack. There was that time... Oh, no, he's never. Yeah. I just don't. You remember Max going wheel to wheel in some races. You remember the Lewis magical moments in traffic. You're absolutely right. He's a fast racing driver, but maybe he's not a wheel to wheel racing driver.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because the distinction is, I suppose, from our point of view, that makes very little sense that he's like a couple of hundredths behind Lewis all of last year, when they were realistically most of the time the only 2 drivers who could take pole. How can you be mega on Saturday and just not have that? It was something that Sebastian...
Trulli.
Yeah, a very similar thing. So Jarno Trulli, the Trulli train, for any younger listeners, was he would plonk it sometimes on the front row and then have no race pace at all. How does that happen?
I think he just couldn't work a 2-day weekend.
Yeah.
He just basically he was a bit lazy. Put all the effort into Saturday, and then it's like, Sunday, I normally want to have a lie-in. They're making me go race. Mamma mia.
Let's conclude this particular topic with a good question from Julie Beersmith. In your professional opinions, do you think Russell now resents Bottas sitting in that car?
We can't possibly know if resent is the right word, but there's no question that he will think, I deserve that seat. I wouldn't have been in that situation. Give me the steering wheel. And if he didn't think that, then he wouldn't be the hungry young fighter that we all see.
It has to be George for 2022 in that Mercedes. Yes, it has to be.
Well, we can start a campaign. These petitions seem to work quite well. If we get 10,000 signatures, we can take it to Parliament.